Ashley here, play-by-play for the Abby Canucks. You got it locked on the Line Change, a Vancouver Canucks podcast.
What's up, Canucks Nation? Welcome back to the Line Change, or if you're new, welcome to the Line Change. In this video, we're going to be going over the top 10 prospect rankings as done by Thomas Drance and Harman Dayal of The Athletic. And this is, of course, post-trade deadline. So we're going to go ahead and check out these rankings. Obviously, with that, The Athletic, it is behind a paywall. So I'm doing this for you guys so you guys can actually see this. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. We, of course, have none other than Ziv Bouillon. Among all the young players in Vancouver's pipeline, Bouillon has the best chance of developing into a true top-of-the-lineup difference maker. The dynamic 20-year-old defender was ranked as the 5th best prospect in the NHL last summer by colleague Scott Wheeler, and it was for good reason, as he produced a dominant 1.18 points per game across 2 years in the NCAA, which of course included a championship title with the University of Denver in 2024. Now, Bouillon was expected to be a dark horse contender for the Calder Trophy this season. His actual performance has been up and down, with a few more growing pains than expected, but his enormous potential remains evident. Bouillon is an elite skater with the lateral mobility and deception to create new attacking lanes from the point in the offensive zone. He also leverages his quickness as a puck transporter, as he can beautifully wheel pucks out and lead dynamic forays through the neutral zone, something we have seen actually rather recently from Bouillon, more so in the last couple games. Now, of course, there's clearly room for him to iron out his defensive game as well, as he's been in the middle of some big defensive breakdowns, though that's true of basically every Canucks defenseman, and a couple of costly turnovers that have ended up in the back of Vancouver's net. These mistakes and learning moments aren't concerning though, as he's exceptionally young. He's even a year younger than Tom Willander and playing on a woeful defensive team. Moving on to number 2 on this list, we have, of course, Braden Coots coming in at number 2. Coots has improved as a point producer in his draft +1 campaign in the WHL and has hit just about every benchmark you would want to see from a first-round forward whose trajectory is trending towards being an NHL-level option in the not-so-distant future. First off, Coots, who's 19 years old, was a standout performer in his first NHL training camp, even breaking camp with the team and getting his first taste of NHL action as an 18-year-old player in the fall. Reassigned to the Seattle Thunderbirds after cameo appearances in a small handful of games, Coots improved his points per game and assist rate considerably in the WHL this season. He was also named to the Canadian team for the World Juniors, where he was a productive depth option for his country and performed well in a fourth-line role, including picking up, I believe it was a goal, or might have been actually 2. Dealt to the Prince Albert Raiders, the top team in the Eastern Conference, Coots has continued to produce points at an auspicious clip and will have an opportunity to compete deep into the WHL playoffs. Everything about Coots' game, aside from his size, is tracking to be pro-ready as soon as next year. He should be expected to take a real run at making the NHL full-time out of training camp in 2026 and will be the heavy front-runner to serve as Vancouver's lone U20 player permitted to compete in the AHL during the 26-27 campaign, which is a new rule that will go into effect next season as part of the new CBA. It's, of course, important to note that Coots' offensive game is largely built on his aggression as a downhill attacker, but his spiking assist rate this season has been responsible for most of his offensive improvement. A talented goal scorer, Coots' production profile has become more multi-dimensional in his draft +1 season, which is a very good sign given that offensive players with dual threat profiles tend to translate more quickly and more completely to the professional level. All around, Coots is tracking in precisely the way you'd expect a forward with top 6 upside to be in his draft +1 campaign. Moving on to number 3, we of course have Tom Willander. Willander has adapted decently well to the NHL during training camp and preseason. He looked raw and as if he'd need significant seasoning in the AHL. Of course, 5 AHL games are apparently all that he needed, as he managed to establish himself as a full-time NHL defender in quick order over the course of this season. Verlander's smooth four-way skating is his game's best asset. He can get up and down the ice in a hurry. While you wouldn't describe him as a dynamic puck handler, he of course hasn't been shy of carrying pucks up the ice when he spots excess time and space. His skating also allows him to gap up effectively in the neutral zone when defending one-on-one rushes. Though his offensive decision-making isn't dynamic, Verlander's secondary offensive impact has of course come along better than we expected, as he seized occasional opportunities to join the rush as a trailer. The 21-year-old right-shot defender is very raw defensively. There have been moments where he's been outmuscled at the net front, failed to block passes while defending the rush, and been slow to pick up his in-zone assignments. But of course, you'd expect a young defender to improve in those areas with more reps and more experience. He's got a reliable motor and should become more effective in battles down low as he gradually adds muscle to his frame. Verlander could develop into a two-way second pair transitional defender capable of logging major minutes in all situations, although his overall hockey awareness will have to catch up to his feet for him to reach his ceiling. Coming in at number 4, we have one-third of the newly christened Bro line, none other than, of course, Liam Öhgren. Acquired as an auxiliary piece of the Quinn Hughes trade, Öhgren has carved out a full-time NHL role with the Canucks this season and has flashed middle six upside thanks to his combination of skill, pace, and size. Though Öhgren's production has been pedestrian, there are some positive signs in his overall underlying profile that hint at some level of offensive upside beyond the box score statistics in his age 21 campaign. In particular, Öhgren's 5-on-5 shot rate is the highest among all Canucks skaters who've appeared in at least 20 games this season, besides Evander Kane and Kiefer Sherwood. It's also worth noting that Öhgren doesn't have a single secondary assist on the year at even strength, a statistic that tells us more about Vancouver's offensive environment than it does about Öhgren's playmaking ability. Öhgren overall has emerged as a solidly well-rounded young player. His size, grit, and pace give him a floor to succeed as a bottom six option, even if his offensive production and impact don't take a step forward as he enters his statistical prime over the next few years. That upside case for Öhgren to emerge as a complementary top six power forward, however, it absolutely exists. He'll get every opportunity to grow into that role too, presumably on a rebuilding Canucks team over the next few seasons. Then coming in at number 5, we of course have Jonathan Lekkerimaki. Lekkerimaki, who was the very first draft pick of the Jim Rutherford, Patrick Allvin regime back in 2022, is a bit older than Vancouver's other top under 23 talent. He'll turn 22 in July and will be entering his draft plus 5 season in the fall, which means the clock is ticking for him to establish himself at the NHL level. The pint-sized sniper has an exceptional shot, which features both a quick release and top-end power and velocity. He can beat goalies cleanly from medium distance, which is a special trait. He's also poised and patient with the puck. He doesn't panic under pressure, and he sees the ice very well. Lekkerimaki is already an elite AHL scorer with 30 goals in 54 games over his last 2 seasons, which is a strong production for his age and at the time of statistical profile that usually translates to future NHL success. However, there is still considerable work for him to do to become an impactful big league player. Lekkerimaki is a sluggish skater, which hinders his ability to win races, to lose pucks, hurts his forechecking, and makes it harder for him to carry the puck up the ice with speed to generate consistent rush offense. Lekkerimaki has also struggled from a two-way perspective, as the Canucks have been outshot 70-31 with him on the ice at 5-on-5. This is part of the reason why he's had a tough time manufacturing shots as well as scoring chances. He couldn't make meaningful strides in his skating last summer, in part because of the Abbotsford Canucks' long Calder Cup playoff run and an infection that caused him to miss games as well as lose weight during the playoffs. Lekkerimaki will enter a critical summer at less than full health following successful shoulder surgery, which is of course tricky. You'd hope he's able to improve his skating explosiveness and power this summer, but that could be difficult as a result of the realities of his rehab, At the moment, Lekaramäki's physical limitations appear to be a bottleneck for a player who otherwise has the shot and skill to succeed in the NHL. Coming in at number 6, we of course have Elias Pettersson, better known as Junior or DPD. A bruising young defensive defenseman, Pettersson hasn't built on his success from the 24-25 campaign. His precautious two-way game and authoritative, if straightforward puck-moving game has fallen off significantly this year, although it's difficult to pin that on Pettersson directly, given the way that Vancouver's defensive environment has atrophied around him this season. Where Pettersson has remained a standout, however, is in the physical side of the game. This is a player who just understands how to play black and blue physical hockey at the NHL level at a very young age, which is a rare trait in contemporary blue liners under the age of 23. He consistently throws the sort of clean hits that look like they'd cause opponents to sport ice bags post-game, and there's tremendous value in that. Pettersson still has an opportunity to carve out a niche as a stay-at-home second-pair caliber defender, although his path to assessing that upside case seems narrower today than it did 12 months ago. Moving on to number 7 on this list, we of course have Riley Patterson. Patterson is one of the fastest rising prospects in Vancouver's system. He quietly made a strong impression on us at training camp in the fall. His slick puck skills popped during some of the drills, even though his so-so play during the actual drills revealed that he's going to be a long-term project. Patterson's production has soared with the Niagara Ice Dogs this year as he's tied for 6th among all OHL players with 36 goals in 55 games. That includes a monstrous run in December, which earned him OHL Player of the Month honors. We should take his standout offensive numbers with a grain of salt because a decent chunk of the CHL's top talent has left for the NCAA, which means the competition level isn't quite as high as it has been historically, but it's still impressive production nevertheless. The 19-year-old right shot center boasts a quick, accurate shot. He pairs that with smooth, cerebral hands that allow him to patiently weave in and out of traffic to attack open ice in the slot and manufacture shots and scoring chances from the inner slot. Off the puck, he has a knack for getting open in soft areas and is a clinical, opportunistic finisher when the puck lands on his stick, whether it be with a catch and release shot or a one-timer. Patterson will need to improve his pace to make his offense translate at the pro level. He's not a very dynamic skater and isn't the type of center who will be a prolific puck transporter. He's got the skill and poise to be dangerous by methodically slowing the game down, but playing against junior defenses, he's benefiting from way more time and space than he would even get at the AHL level, let alone in the NHL. Patterson sometimes tends to glide when he gets close to a shooting area, rather than just skating hard. He can get away with that in the OHL because the back pressure is merely mediocre, but at higher levels, that habit will be picked apart until he adjusts. Coming in at number 8, we of course have Alexei Medvedev. Now, goaltenders are inherently fungible, which is reflected in this ranking relative to the skaters in Vancouver systems, with paths to being top 9 forwards or top 4 defenders. Do not confuse where Medvedev ranks on this list with us being in any way low on him or fading his performance at the OHL level this season. It has been a bit of a challenging season, however, for Medvedev, especially over the last 2 months. Entering the season, Medvedev, who spurned offers to join top NCAA programs last summer, was expected to serve as the London Knights' full-time starter. Of late, however, Sebastian Gatto, an undrafted 20-year-old who tended the net for the Chilliwack Chiefs in the BCHL last season, has supplanted Medvedev as London's first choice between the pipes. Since January 1st, Gatto has started in 17 games in comparison with 11 for Medvedev, where Medvedev has gone 16-14-2 for London with an .891 save percentage. This season, Gatto has caught fire, posting a 21-7-2 record with a sterling .921 save percentage. When the OHL playoffs begin, in all likelihood, Medvedev will serve as London's backup for his second consecutive season. There isn't too much cause for concern here. Medvedev is only just 18 in comparison. Gatto is, of course, 20. And we know that goaltending performance can be hugely variable. Medvedev remains a top goaltending prospect with future NHL starter upside, but this hasn't been the sort of OHL season that the Canucks would have hoped for from their goaltender of the future. Coming in at number 9, we of course have Kirill Kudryavtsev. When you're a 5'11" defender without any flashy standout traits like Kudryavtsev, the odds of becoming a full-time NHL contributor are stacked against you. There are 178 NHL defensemen who've played at least 40 games this season, and only 20 of them, which is 11%, are listed under 6 feet tall. Within that subset of 20, a large chunk of them, for example, Quinn Hughes, Lane Hudson, Shane Gostisbehere, and Rasmus Sandin, are dynamic offensive contributors, which Kudryavtsev isn't. With that said, if there's a short defender who's smart, efficient, and effective enough to beat the odds anyway, it's probably Kudryavtsev. He had a strong rookie AHL campaign last year, playing a pivotal top 4 role on Abbotsford's Calder Cup winning blue line. He's a confident puck mover because of how poised and crafty he is in problem solving around heavy forechecks, an element we've seen bigger, more athletically gifted defenders like Victor Mancini struggle with at the NHL level. Kudryavtsev scans and anticipates well defensively, and his size doesn't appear to be much of a hindrance when defending down low because of how stocky and heavy his frame is. He isn't a gifted enough skater to consistently make elite level plays offensively, but his vision is impressive. His pinpoint accurate passing is of course underrated. The Canucks should give Kudryavtsev an NHL look down the stretch at some point. He doesn't have a high ceiling, but his intelligent, steady two-way play could make him an effective NHL depth option one day. Coming in at number 10 on this list, we of course have Sawyer Minio. The 20-year-old defender has managed to become a fixture on the Abbotsford blue line this season and has performed reasonably well despite the nightmare campaign that the team has endured, largely as a result of a rash of injuries to the NHL club and the impact that's had on Abbotsford's depth. Minio has the frame, defensive instincts, and athletic tools to profile as a future third-pair penalty-killing defender at the NHL level, but he'll need to add some heft to both his frame and skating burst to get there. Though Minio was a productive power play point producer in junior, has produced reasonably well as an AHL rookie, his offensive toolkit and decision-making look limited and are unlikely to be his calling card at the professional level. So there you guys have it. That is the Canucks top 10 prospects post-trade deadline. As I mentioned, this article was written by Thomas Drance and Harman Dayal of The Athletic. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, where there's some, people left out that you felt as though should be on those rankings. Guys like Danila Klimovic, Ty Mueller, just a couple examples. Let me know what your guys' top 10 rankings are in the comment section down below. And I'd like to shout out and thank DraftKings Sportsbook, of course, for sponsoring this video. And let's take a look at the NHL betting odds. We're going to go with the Seattle Kraken and the Vancouver Canucks. Seattle Kraken are at a minus 1.5 and a plus 185 on the puck line, while the Vancouver Canucks are at a plus 1.5 and a minus 225 on the puck line. The Kraken are a minus 135 on the money line, and the Canucks are a plus 114 on the money line. Reminder, these odds are subject to change, and of course, please play responsibly. But on that note, again, a shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook, which is of course an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, Wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario, restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which will expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL, all rights reserved. This video has been a presentation of both DraftKings Sportsbook as well as the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcasts, where it's every team, everywhere.
Once again, drop your comments down below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next line change.